Dr. Kate Morrison wiped the sweat from her face as she looked at the computer screen. The numbers made no sense. She had been doing geological surveys for 15 years, but she had never seen readings like this before. "Rick, come look at this," she called to her partner. Rick Taylor was busy setting up equipment near their truck. The Nevada desert was hot, and the sun beat down on them without mercy. Rick walked over and looked at the screen. His eyes went wide. "That can't be right. Are you sure the equipment is working?" Kate checked all the connections again. Everything looked normal. "Lisa, can you run a diagnostic on the ground scanner?" Lisa Carter was their equipment specialist. She could fix anything that broke down in the field. She ran her hands over the machine and checked all the settings. "Everything looks good to me. The machine is working fine." The three scientists stood around the equipment in silence. The readings showed something massive buried deep underground. According to their instruments, there was a metal object 15 miles below the surface. It was huge, maybe the size of a football stadium. "Maybe it's a mineral deposit," Rick suggested. "Some kind of metal, or we haven't seen before." Kate shook her head. "Look at the shape. It's too regular, too smooth. Natural deposits don't form like that." The object appeared to be made of some kind of metal that their equipment couldn't identify. The edges were perfectly straight, and the surface was completely smooth. It looked like it had been built, not formed by nature. "We need to report this," Kate said. She pulled out her satellite phone and called their supervisor back at the University. Dr. Amy Brooks answered on the second ring. "Kate, how's the survey going?" "Amy, we found something strange. Really strange. Can you get access to better equipment? We need deeper scans." There was a pause. "What kind of strange?" Kate described what they had found. She could hear Amy typing on her computer as she talked. "I'm sending the data now," Kate said, uploading the files through her phone. Another long pause. Then Amy's voice came back, much more serious. "Kate, don't move from that location. Don't talk to anyone else about this. I'm making some calls." The phone went dead. Kate looked at Rick and Lisa. They both looked worried. "What do you think it is?" Lisa asked. "I don't know," Kate replied. "But whatever it is, it's been down there for a very long time." 3 hours later, black helicopters appeared on the horizon. Kate counted 6 of them as they landed near the survey site. Men in military uniforms jumped out and quickly set up a perimeter around the area. A tall man in an Air Force uniform walked up to them. His name tag read Patterson. "Dr. Morrison, I'm Colonel Jake Patterson. We need to talk." Kate nodded. She had expected this. Whenever civilians found something unusual, the military usually showed up. "What exactly did you find?" Colonel Patterson asked. Kate showed him the readings on her computer. The colonel studied the data carefully. He didn't seem surprised. "Sir," Kate said, "what do you think it is?" Colonel Patterson looked at her for a long moment. "Honestly, Doctor, I have no idea. But we're going to find out." More vehicles arrived throughout the day. Scientists, engineers, and military personnel swarmed over the site. They brought equipment that Kate had never seen before. Massive drilling rigs, advanced scanners, and computers that filled entire trucks. Dr. Amy Brooks arrived with the second wave of people. She found Kate sitting on a folding chair, watching all the activity. "How are you holding up?" Amy asked. "I'm confused," Kate admitted. "What's all this about?" "It's just a metal object underground." Amy sat down next to her. "Kate, that object has been down there for at least 50,000 years, maybe longer." Kate's mouth fell open. "That's impossible. Humans didn't have the technology to build something like that 50,000 years ago." "I know," Amy said quietly. "That's why everyone is so interested." A new man approached them. He was older, with gray hair and kind eyes. "Dr. Morrison, I'm Dr. Sam Rodriguez. I specialize in linguistics and communication." Kate shook his hand. Nice to meet you. But why would they need a language expert for a buried piece of metal? Dr. Rodriguez smiled. Because we don't think it's from Earth. The words hit Kate like a physical blow. She sat down hard in her chair. You mean, ... We mean it might be a spaceship, Amy said. An alien spaceship that crashed here long before humans built cities or learned to write. Kate looked around at all the activity. Suddenly everything made sense. The military presence, the secrecy, the advanced equipment. They weren't just digging up an old piece of metal. They were excavating humanity's first contact with alien life. But why here? Kate asked. Why in the middle of the Nevada desert? Maybe it didn't crash. Dr. Rodriguez suggested. Maybe it was hidden here on purpose. Maybe whoever built it was waiting for something. Waiting for what? Dr. Rodriguez looked toward the drilling operation that had already begun. Maybe waiting for us to find it. As the sun set over the desert, Kate watched the floodlights come on around the dig site. In a few hours, they would begin the deepest excavation in human history. They would dig down 15 miles to reach something that had been waiting in the darkness for 50,000 years. Kate couldn't sleep that night. She kept thinking about the object buried so far below. Was it really a spaceship? Were there aliens inside? Were they still alive after all this time? She walked to the edge of the dig site and looked down at the massive hole they had already started. Tomorrow, they would go deeper. Tomorrow, they might change the course of human history. But tonight, she just stood in the desert and wondered what they would find in the darkness below. It took them 2 weeks to reach the object. The drilling operation worked around the clock, with teams taking shifts to keep the work going day and night. Kate barely slept during those 2 weeks. Every day brought them closer to something that might change everything humans thought they knew about life in the universe. On a Tuesday morning, the drill finally broke through into empty space. The workers pulled up the drilling equipment and found it covered in a strange, dark metal that none of them recognized. We're through, announced the drilling foreman. There's definitely a hollow space down there. Colonel Patterson gathered the team leaders around a table covered with computer screens and charts. We're going to send down a small camera first. We need to see what we're dealing with before anyone goes down there. They lowered a camera on a cable down through the narrow hole they had drilled. The images that came back left everyone speechless. The camera showed the inside of what was clearly a constructed space. Smooth walls curved away from the camera's view. Strange symbols were carved into the metal surfaces. Most amazing of all, there was still air inside the space. After 50,000 years buried underground, the ship still had atmosphere. The air is breathable, reported Dr. Claire Watson, their biology expert. Oxygen levels are actually higher than normal. No harmful bacteria or gases detected. Colonel Patterson made the decision. We're going down. I want a small team first. Volunteers only. 3 hands went up immediately. Kate Morrison, because she had found the ship and felt responsible for it. Sergeant Tony Martinez, a Marine who specialized in dangerous situations, and Dr. Sam Rodriguez, because if there were alien writings inside, they would need someone who understood languages. They suited up in protective gear and breathing equipment, even though the air seemed safe. One by one, they rappelled down the 15-mile shaft to the alien ship. Kate was the first to touch the ship's hull. The moment her gloved hand made contact with the metal surface, something incredible happened. Lights began to flicker on throughout the ship. Not electric lights, like humans used, but something softer and warmer. The lights seemed to come from the walls themselves, growing brighter and dimmer in a slow, steady rhythm, like the ship was breathing. Did you guys see that? Tony Martinez whispered into his radio. We saw it, came Colonel Patterson's voice from the surface. What did you do? I just touched the wall, Kate replied. She pressed her hand against the metal again. This time, She felt a gentle vibration, like the ship was humming quietly to itself. They found an opening that looked like it might be a doorway. There was no door, just an archway that led deeper into the ship. As they approached it, the opening glowed brighter, as if welcoming them inside. "It knows we're here," Dr. Rodriguez said quietly. They entered the ship carefully. The corridors were tall enough for humans to walk upright, but they were clearly designed for beings that were taller than most people. Strange symbols covered the walls, glowing softly in colors that shifted from blue to green to purple. "The symbols are changing," Dr. Rodriguez observed. He was recording everything with his camera. "They seemed to be responding to our presence." As they walked deeper into the ship, more sections came to life. Rooms filled with equipment they couldn't understand. Walls covered with what looked like screens showing images of stars and planets. And everywhere, the soft humming sound that seemed to come from the ship itself. They reached what appeared to be the center of the ship. It was a large, circular room with a raised platform in the middle. As soon as they entered, the platform began to glow brighter than anything else they had seen. Suddenly, light began to swirl above the platform. It started as just a few sparks, but quickly grew into a column of shimmering energy. The light began to take shape, forming into something that looked almost like a person, but made entirely of light. The three humans stepped back, but the being of light didn't seem threatening. It moved slowly and gracefully, as if it was as curious about them as they were about it. Then it spoke, not with words, but directly into their minds. "Welcome," the voice said inside their heads. It felt warm and friendly. "I have been waiting for you." Kate found her voice first. You can talk to us." "I am what you might call an artificial intelligence," the being replied. "I am the guardian of this vessel. I have been waiting for your species to find me." "How long have you been waiting?" Dr. Rodriguez asked. "By your measure of time, approximately 51,000 years. Tony Martinez nearly dropped his weapon. 51,000 years. You've been conscious down here for 51,000 years. I have been dormant most of that time, but I have been monitoring the surface, waiting for the right moment, waiting for your species to reach the proper level of development." Kate stepped closer to the platform. "Why were you waiting for us? Who are you?" The being's form shifted and changed as it spoke. "My creators called themselves the Architects. They were explorers, like you. They traveled among the stars, building and learning and growing, but their civilization fell to war and destruction." "What happened to them?" Dr. Rodriguez asked. "They created wonderful technologies, but they could not learn to use them wisely. They turned their gifts into weapons. They destroyed themselves and most of their works." The room around them seemed to respond to the story. The walls showed images of great cities among the stars, then fire and destruction, then emptiness. Before the end, my creators sent out ships like this one. We were to find young species and wait for them to prove they were ready for the knowledge we carried. "Ready for what knowledge?" Kate asked. "The technologies that could lift your species to the stars. Clean energy that could power your worlds forever. Medicine that could heal any disease. Transportation that could carry you to distant galaxies. All the knowledge of the Architects, preserved and waiting." Tony's radio crackled. Colonel Patterson's voice came through, tight with tension. "What's your status down there?" "We're reading massive energy spikes." "We're okay," Kate replied. "Colonel, you need to hear this. We're talking to, well, I guess it's an alien, artificial intelligence." There was a long pause from the surface. Then, "Did you say talking?" "The ship has been waiting for us," Kate explained. "It has technology to share with humanity, but there's a catch." The being of light pulsed brighter. "Your friend is correct. The knowledge comes with responsibility. My creators failed because they gained power without wisdom. I will not make the same mistake twice." What kind of responsibility? Dr. Rodriguez asked. I must test your species. I must be certain that you will use these gifts to build rather than destroy, to explore rather than conquer, to unite rather than divide. The implications hit Kate like a wave. This wasn't just first contact with alien life. This was a test that could determine the future of humanity itself. What happens if we pass your test? She asked. Then humanity joins the community of star-traveling species. You become the inheritors of the architect's legacy. And if we fail, the being's light dimmed slightly, then I will sleep again and wait for another species to find me. Perhaps one more ready for the responsibility that comes with great power. Kate looked at Tony and Dr. Rodriguez. They both looked as overwhelmed as she felt. In a single day, they had gone from digging up an old artifact to potentially determining the fate of human civilization. How long do we have? Kate asked. The test has already begun, the being replied. The moment you touched my ship, signals went out across the galaxy. Others now know that I have awakened. Some will come to congratulate a new species joining the stars. Others will come to destroy a potential threat before it can grow strong. The weight of responsibility settled on Kate's shoulders like a heavy blanket. Humanity was about to face its greatest challenge, and it had started with her touching an alien wall, 15 miles underground in the Nevada desert. The being of light, which the humans had started calling Guide, began to explain the test over the following days. It wasn't a simple exam with right and wrong answers. Instead, it was a series of challenges designed to reveal humanity's true character. The first test is cooperation, Guide explained to the growing team of scientists and military personnel who now filled the ship's corridors. Your species must show it can work together, even when faced with difficult choices. Guide activated a section of the ship that had been dark since they arrived. The new area contained a massive chamber filled with strange machines and glowing panels. In the center sat a device that looked like a cross between a computer and a piece of art. This machine can solve one of your planet's greatest problems, Guide said. It can create unlimited clean energy, but it requires 3 people to operate it, and those 3 people must trust each other completely. Dr. Amy Brooks, who had become the lead scientist on the project, studied the machine carefully. What do you mean by trust each other completely? The machine reads the minds of its operators. If any of the 3 people operating it have selfish thoughts or hidden agendas, it will not work. Only pure cooperation will activate it. Colonel Patterson frowned. That seems impossible. Everyone has selfish thoughts sometimes. Indeed, Guide replied. That is why it is a test. The team spent days trying to figure out how to operate the machine. They brought in their best engineers and scientists. Pete Johnson, a brilliant engineer from MIT, worked with Dr. Brooks and Lisa Carter to understand the machine's controls. They discovered that the machine required not just cooperation, but a kind of mental harmony that humans rarely achieved. The 3 operators had to think as one person, with no competing desires or hidden fears. It's like trying to meditate while solving the most complex equation in the universe, Pete said after their 5th failed attempt. Maybe that's the point, suggested Dr. Nancy Davis, an anthropologist who had joined the team. Maybe the test isn't about being smart enough to operate the machine. Maybe it's about being good enough. While the team worked on the first challenge, Guide presented them with more tests. Each one was designed to reveal something different about human nature. The second test involved a room full of alien technology that could cure diseases. But the cures came with a choice. The team could cure 100 people of a terrible disease, or they could cure 1 person of every disease that person would ever get in their lifetime. Save many people a little, or save 1 person completely. Dr. Claire Watson asked as she studied the alien medical equipment. Both choices have merit, Guide observed, but which choice you make and how you make it tells me about your values. The third test was even more difficult. Guide showed them a weapon system built into the ship. It was powerful enough to destroy entire cities, but it could also be used to stop asteroids from hitting Earth or defend against hostile aliens. Power can be used for creation or destruction, Guide said. How will your species choose to use the greatest power in the universe? Carl White, a philosopher they had brought in to help with the ethical questions, spent hours debating this test with the other team members. Do we even touch the weapon? Or is touching it already a failure? Meanwhile, news of the discovery had begun to leak to the outside world. Despite the military's efforts to keep it secret, rumors spread through social media and news outlets. Stories about an alien ship in Nevada filled the internet. World governments began to demand access to the site. The President of the United States held emergency meetings with his advisors. The United Nations called special sessions. Everyone wanted to know what was really happening in the Nevada desert. Colonel Patterson found himself caught between orders from Washington and his growing belief that the discovery was too important for any one country to control. Sir, he said, during a video conference with his superiors, this isn't about America or any other country. This is about the entire human race. Colonel, came the reply from a general he had never met, you have your orders. That technology belongs to the United States. But inside the ship, Guide was watching everything. The alien intelligence saw the political maneuvering, the competing claims, and the growing tensions between nations. Your leaders disappoint me, Guide said to Kate during one of their conversations. They think in terms of countries and borders. The universe does not recognize such small divisions. Kate felt a growing sense of urgency. What can we do? We can't control what our governments decide. Perhaps, Guide said, but you can influence them. The question is, will you? The breakthrough came from an unexpected source. Ryan Hill, a young communications specialist, had been monitoring social media and news reports about the discovery. He came to Kate with an idea. People are talking about this all over the world, he said, showing her his computer screen. Look at these posts. Scientists in Japan are offering to help. Engineers in Germany want to contribute. Students in Africa are discussing the implications. Kate looked at the messages flooding in from around the globe. Despite their government's attempts to control the situation, ordinary people were already cooperating across national boundaries. What if we let them help? Ryan suggested. What if we make this a human project instead of an American project? The idea was radical and probably illegal. But as Kate watched the tests that Guide had given them, she realized that this might be exactly what they needed to do. That night, she called a meeting with the key team members, Dr. Brooks, Pete Johnson, Dr. Rodriguez, and Tony Martinez, gathered in one of the ship's smaller chambers. I think we're approaching this wrong, Kate said. We're trying to pass these tests as Americans, or as scientists, or as military personnel. But Guide isn't testing Americans. It's testing humans. What are you suggesting? Dr. Brooks asked. I'm suggesting we open this up to the whole world. We invite the best minds from every country to help us solve these challenges. We show Guide that humanity can work together, not just Americans. Tony Martinez shook his head. The Colonel will never allow that. Neither will Washington. Then maybe we don't ask permission, Kate replied. The room fell silent. What Kate was suggesting could be considered treason. But as they sat in the alien ship, surrounded by technology that could change the future of human civilization, national laws seemed less important than the future of the species. Count me in, Pete Johnson said quietly. Me too, added Dr. Rodriguez. One by one, the others agreed. They would find a way to make the alien tests into a global effort. They would show Guide that humanity's best hope lay not in competition between nations, but in cooperation between all people. The real test, they realized, wasn't just about operating alien machines or solving complex problems. The real test was whether humanity could grow beyond its tribal instincts and become something greater. Guide watched their discussions with interest, but said nothing. The alien intelligence was patient. It had waited 50,000 years. It could wait a little longer to see what choice humanity would make. The decision to involve the entire world in the alien tests created chaos. Within hours of Ryan Hill's first encrypted messages going out to international scientists, every major government on Earth was demanding answers. Kate Morrison found herself in the middle of the biggest political crisis in human history. She sat in a secure conference room while video screens showed angry officials from a dozen countries. The President of the United States was furious. The Chinese premier was demanding access. The European Union wanted to send their own team immediately. Dr. Morrison, said the Secretary of State, you have potentially compromised national security by sharing classified information with foreign nationals. Kate looked around the room at all the angry faces on the screens. With respect, sir, this isn't about national security anymore. This is about the security of our entire species. Colonel Patterson stood behind her, looking uncomfortable. He had been ordered to arrest Kate and several other team members, but he hadn't done it yet. Sir, he said carefully, the situation down in the ship has changed. I think you need to hear what Dr. Morrison has to say. Kate took a deep breath and began to explain what Guide had revealed to them over the past few days. The alien intelligence had shown them more of the ship's capabilities, and the picture was both wonderful and terrifying. The ship contains technology that could solve every major problem we face, Kate said. Climate change, disease, poverty, energy shortages. All of it could be fixed with what's in this ship. Then what's the problem? Asked the British Prime Minister. The problem is that it also contains weapons, Kate replied. Weapons that could destroy planets. The aliens who built this ship used the same technology to save worlds and to destroy them. In the end, the destructive uses won out. She paused, watching the faces on the screens. Some looked skeptical, others worried. Guide has been monitoring our response to the discovery. It's watching how we handle this knowledge, and so far, we're failing the test. What test? Demanded. The Russian president. Kate explained about the cooperation machines, the moral dilemmas, and the choices that Guide had given them. Every challenge requires us to work together and think beyond our own immediate interests. But all we've done is argue about who gets to control the technology. Dr. Amy Brooks joined the conversation from the ship. Guide showed us something. Yesterday, she said. It let us see what happened to other species that found ships like this one. The screens in the conference room changed to show images that Guide had shared with them. Planets covered in beautiful cities, then the same planets reduced to ash and rubble. 17 different species have found architect ships over the past million years, Dr. Brooks continued. Only 3 of them passed the tests. The others destroyed themselves within a generation of gaining access to the technology. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. What do the successful species have in common? Asked the Japanese representative. They learned to think as one people, instead of many tribes, Kate replied. They put the survival and growth of their species above the power of their individual groups. Over the following days, the political situation grew more tense. Military forces from several countries moved toward the Nevada site. Protests erupted around the world as news of the alien ship spread. Some people demanded that their governments get access to the technology. Others worried that humanity wasn't ready for such power. Inside the ship, Guide continued to present new challenges to the human team. But each challenge seemed to get harder, and the consequences of failure became more serious. I am showing you a weapon system, Guide said, as it activated a new section of the ship. The room filled with displays showing energy patterns that the humans couldn't understand. This system can destroy the ship and everything within 50 miles of it. Helen Murphy, A systems analyst who had joined the team studied the displays carefully. "Why are you showing us this?" "Because other ships have detected my awakening," Guide replied. "Some carry species that view emerging civilizations as threats to be eliminated. They will arrive within your time measurement of 6 months." The weight of this news hit the team like a physical blow. Hostile aliens were coming to Earth, and humanity had 6 months to prove it deserved to survive. "Can the ship defend Earth?" asked Bill Roberts, an engineer who had been working on understanding the ship's power systems. "Yes," Guide said, "but only if operated by a unified species. The ship's weapons will not function for a divided people." The architects built in this safeguard after seeing too many civilizations tear themselves apart. Kate felt the responsibility crushing down on her. Not only did humanity need to pass Guide's tests, but they needed to do it in 6 months while preparing for a possible alien invasion. The breakthrough came from an unexpected source. Around the world, ordinary people had been following the story through social media and leaked information. Scientists, engineers, teachers, and students had been working together online, trying to solve the puzzles that Guide had presented. Dr. Carl White brought Kate a tablet computer showing a global collaboration network that had formed spontaneously. "Look at this," he said. "People from every continent are working together. They're sharing ideas, combining their knowledge, and treating this as a human problem instead of a national one." Kate looked at the screen and saw something amazing. A professor in India was collaborating with a student in Brazil to solve one of Guide's energy puzzles. Engineers in Canada were working with designers in South Africa to understand the ship's healing technology. Children in schools around the world were drawing pictures of what they thought the friendly aliens might look like. "They're doing what we couldn't do," Kate realized. "They're working as one species." She took the tablet to Guide and showed it the global collaboration network. "This is what you wanted to see, isn't it? Humanity working together." Guide studied the information for a long time. "It is encouraging," the alien intelligence finally said. "But your leaders still fight for control. Your governments still think in terms of advantage over others rather than benefit for all." "What if the governments don't matter?" Kate asked. "What if we listen to the people instead of the politicians?" Guide's form pulsed with brighter light. "Explain." Kate felt an idea forming. It was dangerous and probably impossible, but it might be their only chance. "What if we give the people a direct voice in this? What if we let humanity as a whole decide how to handle this situation?" "You mean democracy on a global scale?" Dr. Rodriguez asked. "I mean giving every person on Earth a chance to vote on how we respond to your tests," Kate said to Guide. "Not their governments, but the people themselves." The idea was revolutionary. Never in human history had every person on the planet been asked to vote on the same question. But with modern communication technology, it might actually be possible. Guide considered this for a long moment. "And if the people choose cooperation and unity, then you'll know that humanity is ready for your technology," Kate replied. "And if they choose division and conflict," Kate met Guide's glowing gaze steadily, "then you'll know that we're not ready, and you can make your decision accordingly." It was the biggest gamble in human history. Kate was proposing to let every person on Earth vote on whether humanity should be allowed to join the galactic community. The vote would determine not just their access to alien technology, but possibly their very survival. "I accept this proposal," Guide said, "but the vote must be conducted fairly, with full information available to all people. And the choice must be made soon. The hostile ships grow closer with each passing day." Kate nodded, knowing she had just committed humanity to the most important election in its history. An election that would determine whether humans would reach for the stars together, or face the darkness of space alone. The global vote became the most important event in human history. In just 3 weeks, Every person on Earth would be asked to answer a simple question. Should humanity accept the responsibility that comes with advanced alien technology and work together as one species, or should each nation pursue its own interests? Kate Morrison found herself at the center of a worldwide campaign unlike anything the world had ever seen. The ship had become a broadcasting center, with Guide's permission, sending information to every television, radio, and internet connection on the planet. Guide itself appeared on screens around the world, explaining the choice that humanity faced. The alien intelligence showed people the wonders that lay within the ship, technologies that could heal the sick, feed the hungry, and clean the environment. But it also showed them the weapons that had destroyed 17 other civilizations. The choice is yours, Guide said in its gentle, mental voice that somehow translated into every human language. But understand that with great power comes great responsibility. Your species must choose not just what you want, but what you are willing to become. The response was immediate and overwhelming. Some world leaders tried to prevent their citizens from participating in the vote, claiming it was illegal or dangerous. But the people themselves had already decided. They organized voting centers in schools, churches, and community centers. They created secure online systems. They made sure that every person, regardless of age or nationality, could have their voice heard. Dr. Nancy Davis worked with volunteers around the world to make sure the vote was fair and honest. "I've never seen anything like this," she told Kate. "People are taking this more seriously than any election in their own countries." Meanwhile, the team in the ship continued working on guides, tests. The cooperation machine that had frustrated them for weeks finally began to respond to their efforts. Pete Johnson, Dr. Amy Brooks, and Lisa Carter managed to operate it together. But only after they had learned to truly trust each other. "It's not about being smart," Pete explained to the others after their successful attempt. "It's about being honest. The machine can sense when you're hiding something, even from yourself." The healing technology test proved even more challenging. The team had to choose between saving many people from disease or completely curing one person. After much debate, they found a third option. They asked the patients themselves what they wanted. Sometimes the right answer isn't one of the choices you're given, Dr. Claire Watson realized. Sometimes the right answer is to let people decide for themselves. But it was the weapon system test that taught them the most important lesson. Guide had shown them incredibly powerful destructive technology, expecting them to decide how it should be used. "We don't want it," Kate told Guide after days of discussion. "We'll learn to defend ourselves with our own technology. If you want to help us, teach us to build, not to destroy." Guide's form pulsed with what seemed like approval. "That is wisdom. The greatest strength is knowing when not to use the power you possess." As the voting day approached, tensions around the world reached a breaking point. Military forces from several countries surrounded the Nevada site. Some governments threatened to take the ship by force if their citizens voted the wrong way. Colonel Patterson found himself in an impossible situation. He had orders to secure the site for the United States, but he also knew that following those orders might doom humanity to failure in Guide's test. "Sir," he told his superior officers in one final video conference, "I believe my duty is to humanity first, and to country second. This is bigger than any one nation." He turned off the video. Lincoln walked down into the ship to stand with Kate and the others. 3 days before the vote, Guide made an announcement that changed everything. "The hostile ships have accelerated their approach. They will arrive in 4 weeks, not 6 months. If humanity fails this test, I will not have time to find another species before they arrive." The implication was clear. If humans failed the vote, Earth would face the hostile aliens with no advanced technology to defend itself. On voting day, something unprecedented happened. Despite threats from some governments and technical problems in some regions, nearly every adult human on Earth participated in the vote. People waited in long lines, helped their neighbors get to voting locations, and worked together to make sure everyone's voice was heard. The question on the ballot was simple. Do you believe humanity should work together as one species to earn access to advanced alien technology and defend Earth from hostile aliens? Kate watched the results come in from around the world. The vote wasn't even close. 78% of humanity chose cooperation over division. Country after country reported overwhelming support for working together as one species. But the real surprise came from what happened after the voting. Instead of going home and waiting for their governments to act, people around the world continued working together. They formed committees to figure out how to implement the technologies they might receive. They started planning for the future as if they were already one united species. Look at this. Ryan Hill showed Kate a computer screen filled with collaboration networks. They're not waiting for permission anymore. They're already acting like one people. Guide observed all of this with what seemed like growing satisfaction. As the final votes were counted, the alien intelligence gathered the human team in the ship's central chamber. Your species has surprised me, Guide said. Not because of your vote, but because of what you did after voting. You chose to become the future you want to see. The ship around them began to change. Sections that had been dark for 50,000 years came to life. Rooms filled with technologies beyond human imagination opened their doors. The ship transformed from a test chamber into a school. The knowledge is yours, Guide announced, but it will be shared gradually, as your species proves it can handle each new level of responsibility. Helen Murphy was the first to ask the question everyone was thinking. What about the hostile aliens? They'll be here in a few weeks. Guide's form pulsed with something that might have been amusement. They are no longer a threat. When I transmitted the results of your vote to other ships across the galaxy, everything changed. Species that had seen your broadcasts have volunteered to help defend Earth. You are no longer alone in the universe. Over the following months, Earth became the site of the galaxy's newest spaceport. Friendly alien species arrived to welcome humanity into the galactic community. The ship that had waited 50,000 years for the right species became Earth's first interstellar academy. Kate often stood in the ship's observation deck, watching human and alien engineers work together to build Earth's first faster-than-light vessels. The planet had changed more in 6 months than in the previous century. But the most important change wasn't in the technology. It was in how humans saw themselves. They had learned to think not as Americans or Chinese or Europeans, but as humans, as one species with a shared future among the stars. Dr. Sam Rodriguez, now serving as Earth's first ambassador to the galactic community, found Kate one evening as she watched the sunset through the ship's windows. "Do you think we made the right choice?" he asked. Kate smiled, thinking about everything that had happened since she first touched the alien wall. "I think we made the only choice that mattered. We chose to grow up." Outside the ship, construction crews were building the first human star. Inside the ship, children from around the world attended classes taught by alien teachers. And deep in the ship's core, Guide continued its patient work, helping humanity take its first steps into a larger universe. The species that had once fought over territories and resources now worked together to explore galaxies. The ship that had waited in darkness for 50,000 years had finally found the people it was meant to guide, and humanity, which had always dreamed of reaching the stars, discovered that the greatest journey was not two distant worlds, but to becoming worthy of the journey itself. The test was over. The real adventure was just beginning.